Welcome to Inspiration Radio, Growth Principles for Humanity and Progress. Join us when we share information, wisdom, and ideas how to create an extraordinary future for us all. The future is open. We together decide what will be in it. Hello and welcome to another episode. Be inspired. My guest today is Mark Miles, and we will explore a little bit in the direction nano world. Why is the universe really supporting us in abundance? Or why is abundance there? What did we learn wrong? And how can we as humans be really living in sovereignty? Stop victimhood, be really the sovereign of your life. And I'm talking with Mark Miles, an entrepreneur. He was, let's say, an entrepreneur in South Africa. He started as an IT guy and very important work in early 20s for the banking industry and extremely successful and did responsible jobs in the IT world and creating codes and algorithms and so on. He made him exit there and created his own company, was very successful with that. And then he sold it and it kind of retired. Then after 10 years, he decided, now I need to work again. And he became a teacher, professor in Saudi Arabia, universities, and learned a lot. And on his journey from studying the technology, be the engineer, he is also a very reflective guy, and he will mention this deep diving, what he is doing and meditating, and he transformed his life on the different levels and thinking and eating and everything, and getting a more and more understanding of the so-called nano world, the world we don't see really, but we can use. And we are consciousness, to understand that we are consciousness and have the freedom to play the life, to play what we call life. Because the normal matrix life is an illusion, as we know, but how to play it with purpose, with joy, and the wished success. And I will explore with Mark a lot of his personal development and have some question in it. And for sure, we will, in another calls, also dive deeper in his nano teaching as a mentor today, because today he is more inventor and mentor. So have fun, have joy, and like always, maybe there are some parts you should listen 2 or 3 times to and make notes and reflect. Hi, Mark. Wonderful. I see the ocean and the palm trees and the wind. I hope you have a chance to sit there because
yes, if you don't,
in South Africa.
If you don't like my background, I will change it, but that's fine. It suits today.
So sorry, what is it? I interrupted you.
Sorry, no, I maybe interrupted you, but if you don't like the background, we can change it.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. But you're doing
okay, good.
Danger that I focus on the palm tree, not on you, maybe. Because it's really hot today, 36 degrees or something here at the Cape. And I'm a little bit sweaty too. And Jeff, your name, Mark Miles, I just want to use to start it. What are the milestones in your life where you say, oh, I need to mark them or share them because, you changed also or transformed also from, the normal business guy to, what is the right word today? A more knowledgeable, spiritual.
I think we're all transforming at the moment. I think it's a very big trend with the amount of knowledge we're picking up. We're tending to have a second or third. So I came out of a tech background, and we wrote software. And in the 70s, we were among the first in the world to write bigger systems for banking and for business. And we saw the whole trend from very simple. The original code that you coded computer programs in was called assembler. It was a very simple machine language, but only for the very, it was complex and strange. And a lot of us
we saw. What did you really see as an analytic in those stuff? Do you see more the kind of let's go deeper in life, how life universe is functioning, or you mean more I saw the development in the business world, what will come?
Yeah, you know, initially we were flat out busy, addicted to machine coding and algorithms, and those in themselves were something that were brand new to many of us. We'd come out of school, repetitive work, learning history and geography over and over. And we'll talk about that later, because as I've moved downwards, I see some of the shortcomings in basic education. But we then fell in love with a set of tools, and the algorithm, the ability, the steps required to solve a business problem or a scientific problem were via coding. You would write good code to do it. And whether it's the code in the background behind Zoom and that's all code. It's written in a software program that says, take the picture of Wolfgang, put it on the screen, show Mark, then interleave the voice. So it's a number of very straightforward steps, but it can be immensely complex. Now, luckily, we were so young in it that by the time we were 21, 22, I mean, I was leading a team of 12 to write South Africa's banking software, clearing software. So every single check and every single debit order went through systems that my team had written, myself and my team. And that kept us immensely busy. So on doing it, you didn't have much time for anything else. But I always had a vision into the future. I was looking 20, 30, 50 years ahead of saying it. And so that was my hobby. I kept that going. So my curiosity to track the biggest changes in technology. And very quickly, I realized they were in maths and physics and chemistry. The foundations of the world, your body, biology, the chemistry of elements and metals, the mathematics of numbers, how to store large numbers, how to work with them, etc. There was a passion for me. And I learned more in a year or two than I had in my whole school life on the basics of it. The most interesting thing when we were writing that banking software, and look, this is for 20, 30 years, but we called ourselves wound up bunnies. You know those Duracell bunnies with a battery?
Yeah.
Where you put them in that, and you wind the toy up, and that was us. We were happy enough for a dark room, a coffee machine, and lots of programs.
What you say when you said we called us, the thoughts you had and the interest of seeing 30, 40, 50 years ahead and reflecting things, is this really typical for someone who is writing codes?
No, there were three. What's interesting is the ability to select analyst programmers or coders came out of the, and they had a set of analytical tools, psychometric profiling. You would know them. You'd know the modern ones, but the original ones came out, and you had various segments they would check, and they particularly wanted arithmetic reasoning and verbal reasoning, and they need to both be very high. So in that lot, we got some people that were extremely high on the arithmetic reasoning, but they made poor analyst programmers. Their code you couldn't understand. They couldn't understand it. Yeah. And they couldn't communicate it. And they didn't easily communicate with the users. They called anyone else that used our software the users, which is another interesting euphemism. Mm-hmm. So I saw all types. Introverts that could code flat out, introverts that were just difficult and made difficult codes. We saw some of the best communicators ever, and they tended to be English and history graduates, and they just happened to have missed maths at school, but they picked that part up very quickly. So on doing it, many of us were, the single biggest thing is the extreme honesty in this profession. If any of us were rogues, we were touching software that influenced people's bank accounts, the country's bank accounts. The organization I worked for settled South Africa's daily bank account to the Reserve Bank among all the banks by 8:30 every night. When we were there, we hadn't missed a settlement in 10 years. So we were settling every single transaction and every single check and any of your things coming off your account to the cent every night among all the stations. And we led the world, and we still do, surprisingly, because we came so late with many things. We came late with television, we came late with telephones, we came late with computers. We were able, and we because we are so diverse here, and you would have picked it up, Wolfgang, there's no more diverse population than South Africa. Do we get on? Well, that's another story. But the so the central thing is that we, I mean, I got slightly off track there, but let's think what I was going to say. Going back. Oh, just we actually thought we were honest. We wrote software. We were very careful that it was ethical. A lot of it didn't seem right in some of the stuff we were doing, and we aspired to a time that would be more human and less machine-like. I luckily just kept.
You say more ethical or human. Who decides what's ethical, or how do you decide that?
You know, it does the end justify the means, sort of thing. We actually felt a bit like the guys making the atomic bomb, where half of them would spend much of their time worrying where would this go in the wrong hands, and you know, most times stuff does end up in the wrong hands. Mm-hmm. And you've got to say, I'm part of this. I'm a material part of it. And luckily, most of us saw clearing software, accounting software. It's fine. It was doing a job of efficiency, giving you accurate numbers, etc. But among it, we saw one or two little, with certain banks and certain ways of doing things. I mean, stealing a cent each day on your interest.
We know today we had a lot of world famous companies faking the bookkeeping and being in the Dow Jones and the stock markets and the wonder company, wow, the shooting stars, and then realizing
Bankman-Fried now and the guys, and it tends not to be the programmers and software guys doing it. It tends to be the business guys doing it, but pressuring the others to create backdoors and all the rest. And you can imagine, if many of us, it's very difficult for, no matter how gifted you are, to find any backdoor. But you can imagine that a crooked businessman will know that it's available, and they will find the pressure to get someone to change it.
Yes, because in the end, we're always inventing tools. And everything is the same for, like I say, you can use a knife to kill people, and you can use a knife to rescue lives. So it is the intention of those who use a tool who make decide the outcome.
So many of us wanted to work Silicon Valley type. We had the ability of understanding machines and coding to go and work for ourselves. And I ended up as well. I bought a mini computer, a mid-range, and had moved down to Cape Town, and we wrote software for about 300 companies in South Africa. So it would handle you call it accounts receivable, accounts payable, debtors, creditors, that's business software, invoicing, general ledger, etc. And we had to learn whole new things. We were writing the code and we knew how to do it, and we'd had experience in each of the sectors, but we suddenly had to become master businessmen in understanding the nuances of how systems mirror a business. And you could quite easily just put your views down on this is how you think it should run. But ideally, good software mirrors the business. Like for you, you would want to find the tools that mirror for you. How do I keep my records? How do I communicate with people? It must work for me. And more, hopefully, we're seeing it work for us.
Yeah,
anyway, I did that.
That's the part for me, like I said, to control the business, that I'm on the right track.
Yes.
But looking also for tools, when we talk about technology, how do I bring what I call the purpose, what I really want to accomplish? How can I have a better impact with it? Therefore, I need the tools or the software, the algorithms, and so.
Yes, I mean, a lot of it was client service. So you want a person buying something from you. It should be a good experience for them when they come to do it. So they might go and choose something. They want to buy that, and that. Now, normally there's multiple lines. So I might want to buy a new bit of machinery, but I want to add a conveyor belt and I want to add a service agreement. And it's a multi-line item, and you need to do that efficiently. There should be less pain in writing the invoice than there was for him to select the service.
Let's say I say we have to digitalization or whatever you call it exactly in English, the business, to make it more automatic, everything that is not really work humans should do, that can machines do. But we want also to come to what is your worldview today, and you mentioned just the ethical thing, and with all the algorithms we have today and all the managements we have today, how you train then with technology, or maybe not, be more ethical in this way. Like the customer, I don't want that the customer buys. love to have the right customers. I love to have the right service that they also understand. And here comes maybe the ethical part of my business. How you do that, or coming back to you, what was your development when you changed just from more the tech guy, what works and how responsible are we, what we accomplish here for South African banking, and but you went further.
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression we were naive youth. I don't want to give the impression that we knew this is in hindsight. I'm seeing some of the progress. This was all learning. And in fact, one of the aspects of many of us in the high-tech area is we're curious. We learn, and we never stop learning. And so just one more minute, and I then sold my business, and I had enough money to think about life. And we went to a beach cottage and spent 10 years.
Well, 10 years is a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time. And it was, if I'd had a mentor, it would have been far better. I could have taken 3 months off. I had a very senior job. I could have taken 3 months off and exited over 3 years.
Oh, yeah, that's directly a question. What you experience, and also you say it would have been better I had a mentor.
Yeah.
But how is it for someone who is so successful, who is in the front of developing, just like the software, could put the other business as well, is so successful, is really driving like a whole business for South African banking, then is setting up a company, an entrepreneur, is successful, sells the company and makes a lot of money. How you get the idea I need a mentor? Guess not, huh?
No, 100%. We were, as the Greeks say, know yourself and everything in moderation. We had no moderation.
Yeah.
We were flat out all hours of the day and night in that bubble of high tech with ourselves and suppliers and customers, only much about focusing. I'm lucky. I had a hobby. I dive. I free dive for crab.
Yeah.
So I spent a day or two a week diving, but not with bottles, just free diving. And that kept me semi-sane.
Yeah.
Because after half an hour underwater,
Yeah.
you move into a realm as good as any meditation, as the good divers will tell you. You move into a wonderful zone. So I'd moved around a lot. I'd been to boarding schools, and I didn't have a mentor. My father admired me, but he admired me more for my mind than mentoring me, and he should have mentored me. I mean, he had all the prerequisites to me, and he did. Some of the statements he would make, but he was often busy, often stuff. But I didn't, and you know what? In hindsight, as part of the sovereign, number one is find your mentors. Number one, because you all know people can't refuse you if you ask someone.
A bit more explanation, please. What you really mean by mentoring? What is it? What you should look for?
You want to develop a dialogue of asking stuff you've not learned. So I mentioned to you the sovereign, which we'll come to. The sovereign is assisting a person round out, and they know a little bit about a high-performing job, but they might not be able to hold a social conversation. I mean, a lot of the guys I worked with could not do any small talk.
So it's not so much about teaching you things you don't know yet. It's more about, when you say conversation, is this more kind of sparring partner? Or
it's a lot of things. Let's take them all. Yes, it's a lot of things. I think we should have multiple mentors. It would have been just being able to ask the question, I'm thinking of doing this next. What do you think? Here's the plan. You will find many business people have got 2 or 3 mentors. In our field, the venture capitalists often act. They have 2 or 3 mentors around a young venture company, and they tend to
just to make it more clear. What is the difference for you, like a mentor or coach?
Yeah, it's very similar. I'm not good. I wouldn't debate it.
When we go to Napoleon Hill with Think and Grow Rich, he says, okay, have a group of, if you're an entrepreneur or self-employed, have a group of so-called leading heads. So who are better in this area? Let's say, oh, Wolfgang needs someone who is better in IT. Is that what you say then also is the mentoring, or is this more the ethical or the personal stuff?
I think it's all of it. One that'll cover 3/4 is the person like Bill Campbell, who wrote the $1 Trillion Coach. He can do 3/4. He can do all of the aspects of business and conversation, but he builds in the ability to be human, the ethics, and many other things. What he might not build in is the ability to go and learn other skills and other hobbies. He will advise you to take time off and go and do those things. But I think you need to be totally rounded and all in moderation. I think, and I mean, I'm very keen to pass on the ability to go and learn how to cook and how to taste wine and get qualifications in the area. It's no good just going to drink a lot of wine. It's more important you learn how wine is made and grown, and it's part of our look. If we drink wine, we might say, look, I hate wine, but if you're going to drink wine and eat good food, you better find out how it's made and done.
Yes, so, but you wouldn't call more the mentor. That is more like, well, let's say you're diving. I wouldn't choose now you as a mentor for diving. I would choose more as a trainer for diving.
Yes. But also, apart from training, there's the mentoring about feeling the moon and understanding. I mean, I go anywhere in the world. I go and I look at the moon and I know the low tide and the high tide that day. There's 2 high tides, 2 low tides. I know them to the hour. And that's a mentoring. It's not so much training. It's a feeling of saying, around your diving, you better know the tides. And you better know that a wispy little cloud on the horizon is likely a cold front coming through. You better not spend too long in the water. Now, some of it is training. Here's how to hold a mask. Here's how to dive. Here's how to catch this. But the other part is the feeling of doing it well. So anyway,
The
but you know
example
what? It's close.
the example with the moon and the tides brings me now maybe back to your transformation or transition. I guess you can start learning about, oh, look at the moon. If it is like this, then the tide's like this. And so you learn it just like a kind of mechanical learning. But after a while, maybe then Mark realizes, oh, how is that? The moon is 300,000 kilometers far away. And somehow is there a connection between moon and the tides? What is happening there in the universe? And you open up to something more than just learning about the tides. And that has happened in your life somehow.
Yeah, that I live for. I spend 50, 60, 70% of my time entirely in the nano world. And so what's led me to when the more I think and the more I do, the more time I have. And I need to do a job. I've got a development I need to move on now, and finding that it's a bit stressful and it's busy, but I have time to talk.
Was it different worlds for you, or you even out of, like I say, called a nano world, got ideas, like channeling ideas, what you then implement in the technology?
Yeah, because I'm curious and a learner of patterns and numbers and physics and chemistry. I tell people, or I tell some people, I would challenge anyone to have as broad an education as I've had of learning stuff, particularly in the STEM world. Okay, I'm not going to counter that I've read all of Shakespeare, or I can argue about certain poetry, but I can hold my own. But I've got a broad education.
Yeah.
Say, I've had a broad education, but also quite deep in many places. Now, out of it, I had what I called an awakening in Saudi. I happened to go and find a teaching job, and it was a university. They were building 7 universities in Saudi, all electronic. They were going to bring Saudi from the Stone Age to the modern era.
So just to make it clear, you were the tech guy. You then was even kind of retired, selling your company and brainstorming what doing next, and diving, and a lot of philosophy and meditating, or whatever you call it. And then how did it happen that Saudi Arabia called you and said, you please come here as a professor and teach us?
Well, I had to get working again. The development I was doing in property, I'd started 2 projects, both which consumed all my and a partner's cash. And we had no money left. If you want to lose money, as they say, if you want to make 10 million, start with 20. But if you want to really do it quickly, buy lots of property. Your cash flow disappears. And particularly development property, okay? Certain property you can move, houses, etc. But
okay, so you need to go back and says, okay, what do I do now to create cash flow?
Yeah. While I was in there, it was interesting. I was learning huge amounts on particularly viabilities and numbers, and because we used the best to do it. But on doing it, I had to get back into work, and we were still on the beach in Pringle Bay. I came into Somerset West, and luckily, because of the work I had done on this development, I started a Pam Golding commercial for the Boerland area. So we sold them, and we were at the height of 2007-8, and it was like shelling peas. I was back into the realm of not selling computers, but selling commercial buildings. And I did 40 deals, but they just held me afloat. They at least stopped major embarrassment. That means I could hold all the properties and work. But the market collapsed 2009 from doing a weekly deal or one every month. Gone. Zero.
Yeah.
We were working with our client base, the best in the country, Golding Pan, and we were selling, buying for them, selling for them, and all the rest. And some colleagues of mine stayed on because we had a desk paid for, we could do it, we could answer phones. But my mind works and says, I'm never going to sell another property this year. You know, and I can't sit at a desk waiting.
Can I say that? Yes.
So, and I was seeing major businesses, development businesses, go out of business. Group 5, some massive development businesses went to the wall.
Yeah.
And I looked around and I thought, well, what do I do now? One is, my daughter had said, Dad, you should teach. All my life at school or at varsity, etc., I tended to pick up the subject that needed teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it was a database or an operating system or maths or physics, it wouldn't be history or the other stuff, because you either got to learn that or no way can you teach it. Actually, it's all, you know, you could hand a book, a good novel, but
we get it that you love to teach. So not to go too much in the teaching, we just make a shortcut. And then because you decided to teach, you made the connection to Saudi Arabia. They were building universities, and you were suddenly in the game of being a professor and teaching in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. And what was nice is where the students came for 2 mornings or afternoons a week, and they did 4 or 5 sessions online with Zoom. They were paid, so they had jobs. So Saudi, fully employed. You got a job, you work for one of the state companies, Saudi Aramco, SABIC, top big businesses. They would tend to be the Coca-Cola distributor for Saudi, half owned by Coke. Excuse me.
So it was not like the university students, like I experienced it in Germany. Okay, I don't know what to do and I don't want to work. Let's go to university.
Yeah, this was purely, you were working and you had a choice of subjects. You could do law.
Yeah.
You could do computer development, computer work. You could do business studies.
Mm-hmm. So people are really already working, having a
yes.
something, just more qualification. It's not what they really needed.
A lot of them had done a junior college. They would have done an A-level or a German equivalent, entry exam. But yeah, they could do a diploma over 2 years or a degree.
Yeah.
And in the classroom, the work was bought from 3 or 4 companies around the world. Headway, Cambridge, Oxford bought their courseware. Now, half of us taught use of English, so TEFL, because the first thing is all the courses were in English. The Saudis had already agreed that their course to teach the students was in English. Some of the subjects, the math and science, would be dual. Textbook in English, the narration in the class would be Arabic. The men and women were taught separately in 2 adjoining colleges. Men couldn't teach women, but the men could teach the guys. Only if there wasn't a woman to teach a woman's class that we would do that. And they would come, and you would use all the tools electronically in the classroom. The courseware would be shaped to do it. Rapid 8 to 10 weeks, semesters, passing through level 1, 2, 3 each year, and then doing the next one next year. They would stay there 2 or 3 years.
Online teaching was already before COVID.
Yes, yes. Now, 2013, 14, I was already there.
Yeah.
And and then during the rest of the week, we would teach them online. They would come in for an online class. So we were doing a classroom with highly electronic whiteboards and courseware. Beautifully strict. Listen, the best courseware you've ever seen. The guys are laddish. Now, the word English laddish, they prefer to be playing football and talking about football. The Saudis are great conversationalists and very African. I was comfortable. I'd come out of South Africa, and I was comfortable with the African Ubuntu, the ability to talk and make friends, and how to do it. I'd been to rural boarding schools and the rest.
Yeah,
so
can you say a little bit more about Ubuntu, because not every listener understands what Ubuntu means.
It's brotherhood. It's saying you're my brother. Every person in my class and all that. You first of all my brother. Before I can say you're a friend of mine, or think we're all brothers. Whether it's my favorite brother or things, and Ubuntu is that thing of saying I care for you, you care for me. It's a particular way of life. Very nice. So when an African goes past you in the street, He wants to ask how you are. And he wants to hear, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Whereas we say hello and hi.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why one of my favorite statements, when someone asks, how am I respond, terrible. I'm feeling terrible. Occasionally.
Yes. Yeah, I made the mistake when I the first time went to America and they said, "How do you do?" I thought he was interested. How do I say?
No way.
No
He's
way.
learned a little pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Ubuntu
So,
is just the kind of, maybe it was an American then, came to a group of kids and says, let's make a race. And who is the winner of the race? We ran there 100 meters, and the winner gets a basket of sweets. And nobody would run. I said, why does nobody run? Yeah, why should I have alone sweets? Like the Brotherhood.
yeah.
They don't
They can't understand first.
and
They won't understand first. I came first.
yeah, and I was in the Maasai area there, and the Maasais, they don't have a word I, they only have we. So they're just it's a totally different thing. And is it also with the Arabs, or is it just they understand it?
So when I was there, I was also working quite hard. The guys I had was run by a prince, and they had some Syrians assisting, and we had unlimited work. So I was teaching the university for half the day, and the other half I was teaching at an airbase and at a government admin department, certain courses. So you could teach as much as you liked. It was quite lucrative, which was healthy.
Yeah.
But what I started to buzz. I was walking the classroom. I'd just gone on an eating regime. I was overweight. So I walked the classroom and walked to my classes, but I also had followed initially a Tim Noakes diet of just a natural primal diet. And the more I read, the more I understood the simplicity. And again, we need to cover that because I dive it back to the nano world. So I learned very quickly, the less you eat, and particularly the less period you're eating, the more time the body's recovering from inflammation. So if you're eating good, less inflammation. If you're eating short with big gaps in between, the body solves the inflammation. But the body sheds. We grow our body hourly, as you know, and monthly we reshed 50% of our body. You can grow new bodies every month. The bones take a bit longer, as we know.
Yeah, what is this? Isn't it a general law in nature? If you leave the earth, then it can heal whatever this area of garden and everything. Nature can heal itself.
Absolutely. Well, that's why my wife Jeannie says the African can leave the earth tomorrow in many parts of Africa, and within 50 years, it's all completely healed, jungle grown over, everything perfect. You can't do that in the Western world anymore. You're left with pollution of great magnitude.
Yeah.
So the awakening happened. I'd been to a set of Catholic schools, where we had mass every morning, a high mass sung in Latin. And I did Latin to matric, all the rest. So I was interested in the chant, the recitation of the sung mass. And when I'm researching it, and I'd heard the Christian one, and that had moved into Gregorian and then into the high chant of the Church of England. And of course, you would have known it, whether it was the Psalms or Our Father, Gloria, the melodies. Originally, I tracked it because I then heard the Jewish one at schools here. And I climbed Kilimanjaro in 99, much earlier. And I'd heard a bit in South Africa, the Islamic chants. And which is another nice story because we've preserved the original chants, the original sound that came from Muhammad. And because the Mohammedanism spread east, and all of our Malays and those people had come from the east, out of Batavia, out of the Dutch and the Portuguese, still preserved the chant as it was sung originally. When I got to Saudi, I heard a discordant sound. I heard some of the worst singing you've ever heard in your life. They first of all said, no, it's not singing. We're reciting the Quran. I said, no, but you've got a normal tetrachord. You've got a 7-note system here that you're chanting. But I said, you're out of key. So I looked at, no, that's how we learned it. Muhammad gave it to us and we copied it. I then looked at it and it said it's in the Quran. So I thought, let me read this. So I read the Quran and I looked at it. And sure enough, it mentions the harf and a roof. It mentions the word. And as part of it, it mentions that the word is recited in such a way it can bring tears to people's eyes. And I'd heard that. I'd heard a psalm or a Gloria sung, which could bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah.
And I then went back.
Just to go down a little bit deeper to when you use the word I hear or I heard, is this really something, what, let's say, the ear, or is this just a frequency which touches you at the heart or whatever reaches the soul? So maybe it's not really a hearing, it's just a
vibration,
frequency.
Yeah. And I'm not musical. I'm really not musical, although I understand the harmonies of the notes and how 2 or 3 notes are harmonious and 2 are not. So that part I understand, but I'm not musical. But I resonate, as we all do, from high to low frequencies. And the frequency, and I'd heard the best sing. I'd heard the best chants of youngsters all the way up to chanting these. And on the more I looked about it, I knew they got the chant wrong. And what's interesting is on looking at it. So this was one of the moments of aha. I found there's a short intro to every surah in the Quran. And they're called the sacred letters, muqatat. It's called the sacred letters. Alif, Lam, Mim, or Nun. There's a letter or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 at the start of every surah that they are forced to pronounce as letters. And they're called the sacred letters given to us by God. And Muhammad didn't tell us what they were. Therefore, he didn't know. The logic said because he didn't tell us what they were, he didn't know. He didn't tell them because they all knew it at that time. They knew the Epishma because the Greeks had taken that muqatat and it carried on into all of our singing. It's the little thing at the beginning of each song when if I'm going to ask you to sing, I will give you a lead in key. I will give you the notes and you will know. That's the formula.
Yeah.
You can't get it wrong. You will know a song that you like.
Yeah.
And you will give.
It is interesting what you say, because I grew up in the Christian world and then
Yes.
the Bible and everything. And it says, in the beginning was a word.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just somehow the same thing.
Or in fact, it's stronger than that, because the harf and a roof is the same word, because one is the single one, harf, and a roof is the plural, and it is the word. But the original word is one letter, but it's a word, and out of it generates the word. But you know what it's used for? Those letters are used for numbers, and in fact, all the ancient scripts, their numbers were letters.
Yeah, but it also then, like what you said, the frequency. If we go to Emoto with the water crystals, and the water understands love in so many languages, I don't believe that it knows all the words, but the frequency, what it's carrying.
Yeah. And that's going to be another subject we can talk about over a glass of red or something.
Okay.
I think you do drink red occasionally.
And now, please, because we're a lot of decades already on the planet, we easily can talk a long time. Can you now, after all this development from IT or now what you shared there, what is the message today? What is your understanding today? What is what we should understand today? What you, let's say, says, this is my conclusion out of it.
Yeah, my synthesis of it is that we need more rounded. I'm very interested in sovereign individuals, the ability that people are able to choose.
Yeah.
And I got the original idea from Lord Rees-Mogg, a British aristocrat that worked in the House of Lords, and he wrote a book called A Sovereign Individual. And he'd said in our time, we will be able to choose and do what suits us.
Yeah.
So you need to shape your world, change your. If you don't like that, you go and learn that. You position yourself to be sovereign and happy. You to perform. So I like that as a concept, but I realize.
But you see it also that it's a choice to be happy, and it's a choice to be victim. Okay, I decide
Absolutely.
for that.
Absolutely. But we need to educate earlier. We can't leave a person at 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, still deciding. So we need basic education far earlier.
And would you agree that it's more important than ever because artificial intelligence, social media brings us so more away from us who we truly are?
We're gonna miss a big part of mankind. They're gonna think the leap is too big. They're already lost with maths and physics. Some things they can't understand. Even the bank account, how to put a bank code in, or a telephone number, or whatever. So they are already, and yet the world is telling you there's blockchain, and I need to go with a special key with cryptography, and these have got prime numbers. Well, you've lost them. They said, forget it, just give me the app. Or how do you multiply two numbers together? Oh, I just key them in. So we've lost a segment of humanity on that side. And I think embedded in us is the ability to do all of these, for all of us. They are too far in their thinking, and they've also lost health, which requires, if your brain is taking 50, 60% of your energy, it's for a reason. It is the engine that often drives every part of the body and every part of our thinking and what we do. If people have already given up, they're unfit. They actually can't calculate. They haven't got enough bandwidth left. They're busy putting one foot in front of the other, or aiming for another.
Would you agree that it's a good invention of nature that we have a brain and that we use a lot of energy, but the idea of nature is not having that 24 hours, 7 days. So just if there is a special situation where you need the brain and need the thinking, let's give all energy there, a lot of energy there, but then stop overthinking.
Yeah. So for me, I've got two realms. I am hunting the very small, and I've got some novel ideas on 2 or 3 parts of the very small. One is gravity, how we keep the machine going. And we are on the threshold of some major revelations, 5 theories. And the seating one for big bodies at the moment, and for classical rough calculations, Newton still holds. I have 2 bodies are attracted by their masses. Einstein says no, they are a body when it gets big, and particularly when it gets big, actually dense space. It warps space, and space and time are one, and we fall into these holes. So because we close to this Earth, this big body next to us, we are falling into the Earth all the time. But what happened is you realize the theory is not complete when I cannot merge the two. And particularly, I can't describe 2 particles, 2 electrons. We know they repel each other, but generally, if I get 50 of them, there is an attraction as well. So they know the theory is missing something. And we're going to talk about that. But what's going to happen around you is we've got breakthroughs happening now, going back to Galileo, etc., with inertia, that had already solved most of the problem.
Yeah, and anyway, the modern science of consciousness has a space-time is doomed, and there's a lot of things what we believe so far that can't be fundamental. There must be something different.
Well, I'll tell you, as where I've seen now, and it's basically by not being part of a university system where you carry on and add to a thought already there. Half the thoughts are wrong.
Yeah.
To go and study them further, you become dogmatic about them. So I'm now able to look from a distance.
Yes.
And what I've come to perceive, the big picture, is that the only answer to gravity is that our universe moves. How it moves, it's either moving in a straight line, one way, but it's got speed, or it's spinning. Now, the most logical theory is that spinning gives me what they call radial acceleration. I'm accelerating all the time. It's the same as a rocket going up. It's falling and accelerating just past the Earth all the time. Lovely concept, beautiful maths, all done. So the moment we can find, is our universe spinning or moving? And it's worse than that. It can be doing two spins. The universe can be spinning this way and tumbling over.
Yeah, and
never know.
Maybe the question is wrong when we said it needs to be one now. This, maybe it's all. We have this and that. It's maybe consciousness deciding, like we say, the observer decide the outcome of this. So there's a lot of interesting questions with that.
No, there's some real physics here as well. Because I'm a purist on the physics side, although I'm happy to look at some of the other, because all of us are molecular and atomic and quark beings. We are all driven, as they say, what's above is below. We all are moving bodies with charges, and we've got, and I don't want to call it mass. We've got attraction and repulsion.
Yeah.
And mass might be an issue, and so might time. But what is not an issue is charge. So there's another story we'll go into, fundamental charge.
Yeah.
And those fundamentals, and those are nice.
Well, here comes the charge, so like the plus and the minus. It doesn't need that to be always on the level of duality, because then you have the two poles. But if you're in the non-duality, is there charge?
Their charge. Is that your question?
Okay. Yeah. Let's say, well, just simply, let's say we're in a matrix and we kind of illusion say that is a matrix. And it doesn't help us if we have better development in the matrix, really. No? So we need to get out of it and says, oh, how did we build the matrix? Maybe to build a new matrix, a different one. And what kind of questions do we need to have to bring us to a point where we really can question the whole matrix? So that's why I'm questioning when he said there must be charge. Oh, how do you know that you're out of...
What I'm saying is charge is very close to fundamental. But we don't know what but we don't know the question. Is why is every electron and every up quark and every down quark identical? It's as though someone had a cookie cutter to the millionth decimal point making little quarks. We know that down there is a quark gluon plasma, that out of it evolve protons and neutrons and electrons. But everyone, it's as though every human on the planet is identical, perfect height to the 100,000th decimal place, same mass, same speech. We're all clones. Every electron on this planet is a clone of each other. We've got to ask ourselves, and we know when you go back in time, it looks like we came out of a singularity, like nothing. And there was some energy, and out of it, the energy propagated and left behind another part. Like we have no dark matter. We've got everything is real matter, but we know we can make an antiquark. We can make an antiproton. We can make not an electron and a positron, but the world we live in are electrons, neutrons, and protons, not their dark matter components. So they are somewhere. So that's worth thinking about, because there's a duality.
Yeah. Then I maybe go back to your diving, when you said, okay, I was diving, and if you just deep down there, and then what you feel then there about these questions?
you won with the planet. You won with the environment. But it's physical. I think we're hunting the ability to assimilate environment. We want to be in tune with it, and maybe it was a musical thing. If we run a set of notes down from high to low, the 7 chakras, the diving gets all of that in harmony, and you're hearing a hum of the ocean, and you're hearing tiny little sounds of even crabs and fish burping, and crabs sting, and crayfish rushing away. You hear the most unbelievable sounds in that water.
That's
you could hear a whale.
They're having a totally different awareness.
Yes.
So
going back now,
for this video, this conversation today, a little bit more, because I guess we could talk for hours about that, and even the problems are not unsolved. What is a conclusion or your synthesis now? I know you're still in the teaching, and you're teaching executives. I'm very summarize what the executive, it's called the executive for the future, or those who really want to be for the sovereign individual, a good example, or build a company with sovereign individuals. What does the new executive need to learn from Mentor Mark?
I prefer to teach an individual, a sovereign. They would tend to be a high-performing executive, any age. The younger, the better. Because I've got two things at the moment. Is one, teaching this person that slipped through the system without becoming sovereign. I'm looking to put basic maths, physics, language into the younger one at 5, 6, 7. But that's another story we'll talk about another time. But the sovereign is that I've made the components, the legs of it, the pillars, and we could debate them because we've got slightly different pillars, which is nice. But the one is just the sovereign. What is sovereign for me? That comes out with a bit of meditation and reading and thinking about me. What am I, and what do I want? And all of that side of thinking. It's a thinking, and I've got some nice, very fast meditation. So the ability to learn to breathe for the first time in your life, 1 week, totally into a zone. So I can get into a zone within 30 seconds, totally.
Yes.
And I can explain the physics of it, the ability to wash the brain. So one is you teach them that says, guys, you can prepare your breathing for a meeting, for a meditation, for going to sleep, for getting into a fight. You better learn a breath if you've got a big fight going on. Okay, so that's the one.
I think that still could easily interest also someone from, let's say, old world thinking. Okay, how can I be better in the meeting? But you have to say something different. And then I try to say it in my words. If you go to spiral dynamics, the grace model of the consciousness of society, and when we come to the integral, so that the executive can see also individuals are different.
That's number 4 for me. That's the 4th leg. So the first leg is know yourself and learn to meditate and breathe. The second one is physical. Physical is walking, exercise, and eating is the biggest one.
Yes.
So again, I bootstrapped them. This is the 6-week thing where you bootstrap the beginnings of breathing and of healthy eating. Not difficult.
Yeah.
And once they get it, then they've got a lifelong ability to know, here's a set of meals for you.
Interesting you say 6 weeks. Yes, on Netflix is a series, You Are What You Eat, and they made with twins over 8 weeks, and a dramatic change when they changed the food, how they decreased the age, biological age went down, brain functions up. It's amazing what you can do with food.
The other one is the social side. Is if you're going to be sovereign, you need to choose, you need to know your moods. Yes. And you need to know what manages them. But if you get the breathing and sleeping and eating right, Your moods will be more balanced. It shouldn't fluctuate too much, and you should have your natural moods. But you're going to also shape those by the job you do.
They're coming back to a frequency. The moment you breathe right for yourself, sleep better, eat the right food, which is not transporting other energies and supports you, that you can hold your energy and frequency. The moment you are better on your frequency, then you are clearer in what you call mood.
Absolutely.
Frequency, and then you know also which relationship works with that or disturbs the frequency.
So the sovereign could be you are in tune with your surroundings, yourself, and the whole environment. The last one is business, because what I've found, most professionals are wrestling with stuff they didn't learn. They might have even done an MBA, but they didn't actually learn the true powers of cash flow, the ability how to start a business, how to raise money, how to employ properly, how to fire properly. But the core one is just the standard cash flows and reading a balance sheet. And you don't need a year. You need 5 minutes on some of these. Most people are bright enough. If you give them the basics, tell them, here it is, and don't worry, I've got your back there, but here's a cash flow framework for you. So one is I spent a lot of time there. A legal document. Most people do not know how to do a heads of agreement. If I want to buy a car from you, I only have to agree 3 or 4 things.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to buy it, you want to sell it. The price, we're not. That'll work for us. Number 2 is when. And number 3 is maybe a bit of terms, that says you got to give me the papers and I hand the money across. But it's 1 page. Mm-hmm. That's why a house and all the rest works so well.
Yeah,
so
I agree totally. Like I said, then business comes latest, not the first one. And that is wrong in society. Because it's in the end, it's not money first, what you're saying, even if flow is important and the number 1 to focus on, but it's not the number 1 thing and purpose. And the world who is making money to the purpose will always fail, and the individuals will always fail if they ignore their frequency, their true frequency. Then you can't be the sovereign. But if you're the sovereign and then learn the cash flow, then you can do what I would call purpose-based business. Then you can live yourself really and create a business what is aligned with your soul, and that is then the real sovereignty.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So to sum up, that interests me, but it'll interest me going a step further. I've been working alone. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to collaborate and panel beat this. I've had no problem finding people to fix various parts of this, but
if you're a of Ubuntu, you can't work alone, huh?
No, I know. But you tend to, in our environment, you tend in the Western world thing. They're terrified. I mean, I've met people with talents that
they are lower level.
They can't do it.
Yeah, because and when I come back to spiral dynamics, and on the integral level, the second level is a we level. That is a we culture. Like you have, like Mandela created the rainbow nation. What you experience here already in South Africa, we need a rainbow planet. We need rainbow companies. In my book, The Best Is Yet to Come, I just was inspired from Star Wars. Where I saw on one planet a bar. There was just a pub bar, and there were, I can't say people, there was whatever, someone with a long nose or everything. Different creatures were in the bar drinking with each other. And there's a kind of picture I still have in my head. Yeah, it doesn't matter how.
And yet we can't go to the pub with another man who's 99.99% our DNA, and we can't find the ability to share a glass of wine with them. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So the sovereign sketchbook I've got is technically shaped, and it's easy to take components and do it, and I'll mature it some more. Yeah. The more interesting thing for me at the moment is the nano world, because it promises a world of abundance for all.
Yes.
And it's happening right now, within weeks to years, for all of us.
Can
Unlimited electricity.
Can we agree on skipping the word promise? Because promise says it might come, and it's not there yet. But I guess
I say I promise or it promises.
The world of abundance is there yet. We are just not ready to see it and use it right.
Okay. Did I mention promise? I mentioned the word promise.
Promise.
Okay. But the technology is, I would say, look, it's an English word which doesn't mean promise. It promises. It foretells. So we'll find the word. But I agree with you. The world of abundance is embedded in the nano world. So the moment you look down, remember our parents lived in the meter world. Everything was 1 meter.
Yes.
We had a park bench, we had this, etc. Very quickly in our days, etc., we heard about the millimeter and stuff was fine. A micrometer, very good tooling, all the rest. We then moved to a nanometer, and beneath it now, picometer, femtometers. You cannot believe they are 1,000 times each gap smaller, and they're unlocking technologies. So now when I get a battery, I can drive a battery company and make it grow 100-fold. I can't make a steel plant grow 100-fold. I can make 5%.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking to change energy-wise and food-wise, I need to look at the nano world. What makes them up? What makes us up? And what makes them? And I'll share a chart with you. It's going to just show it quickly. You've seen it.
Well, we will not see it on the radio, Michael Chen.
Okay. No, you don't see the picture. You don't see the picture.
I see the beautiful background of you. So,
but tell me. Oh, I see. Okay, I'll show you this next time. It's worth talking about the nano world.
Yes, because that's sure. I totally agree. There is enough energy. There's so much abundance. We don't have a lack of energy on planet Earth. Really, we have not a lack of food. We are just as stupid how we arrange everything.
But we have a lack of. We believe
understanding, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe,
and that's what's going to be.
Yeah, and the technology is better and better, showing us how we can get access to it and understand it.
Do you want to talk about this technology, nanotech, now or next sometime in the future?
We do it in the next time, because I know you told me your time is limited and we are already over the time. And I don't want to stress you too much with that.
I enjoyed the session. Sorry if I talked too much.
That's why we just want to summarize it. And the key is that we all get a different, people say higher consciousness. I'm not a friend of higher consciousness, or more awareness of the consciousness, what we are. And then the understanding, like you said, the steps, know yourself, find your own true, let's say, sound frequency. And from there, really, like we say here in my YouTube channel, play the game we call life. Because it's
very good.
It's a play. We choose how to play it. And therefore, we need more understanding. And this was your transformational journey to see and understand more. And I'm grateful that one more I met who is teaching it, and we look and we'll meet together and to see how can we create something. You more for the executive world, and I'm for sure interested more in the self-employed or entrepreneurial guys who can create the culture, because also we know, at least you mentioned something, a higher percentage of an understanding, but generally 2/3 of the business success is the culture. And that is the awareness again, or the consciousness again, or the sound, the words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the world is ready. It's ready for it. It's ready for change.
Yes. And they understand more that they need it. And the world, like I learned from Bob Proctor, because we said a lot in the Western world, people are against change. No, that's not true. And I tested it in a lot of workshops. Oh, yeah, here I have $10,000. Are you ready to go to the street and shop and buy some new clothes? Yes, everybody was then excited. Are you ready to take the new car? Yeah. So change is not a problem. forced change is a problem. And we are understanding now, wow, if you want to have a better world, we need to change something. And more we understand what it could be. Ubuntu is one of the words you said, and you found a technique how we all can live more. And also you said, wow, when I'm diving, I'm happy to be alone there and feel it and meditate it. But when I'm on planet Earth, in the 3D world, I want to play more Ubuntu. Thank you, Mark, for today. And we will for sure continue it with your insights from the nano world and how we implement all this understanding to make for us all the world more beautiful and live in more peace and in abundance. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely ending. Perfect. I look forward to that.